On June 28, 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary was traveling through Sarajevo when a series of seemingly random events converged to change the course of human civilization forever. The initial assassination attempt had failed completely when conspirator Nedeljko Kabrinović threw a bomb at the Archduke's motorcade. The explosive device bounced off the car and detonated under the vehicle behind them, injuring several bystanders but leaving Franz Ferdinand unharmed. What followed was a sequence of coincidences so perfectly timed that they appear orchestrated by some unseen hand. The Archduke's driver, unfamiliar with the revised route, took a wrong turn while attempting to visit the hospital where bombing victims were being treated. When he realized his mistake and began reversing the vehicle, the engine stalled directly in front of Schiller's Delicatessen on Franz Joseph Street. At that precise moment, 19-year-old Gavrilo Princip emerged from the same establishment where he had been consuming a sandwich, contemplating his failed mission. The mathematical precision of this convergence defies rational explanation. Princip had to be in that exact location at that specific time, while simultaneously, the Archduke's car had to malfunction at the precise coordinates where their paths would intersect. The probability calculations show odds exceeding 1 in several hundred million for such perfect temporal and spatial alignment. Yet this impossible coincidence triggered World War I, reshaping global civilization and resulting in the deaths of millions. Investigation reveals even more disturbing synchronicities surrounding this event. The date chosen for Franz Ferdinand's visit, June 28th, was the anniversary of the Battle of Kosovo in 1389, a defeat that remained deeply significant to Serbian national identity. The Archduke's decision to visit Sarajevo on this historically sensitive date created the perfect storm of nationalist tension and opportunity. Most eerily, the license plate of Ferdinand's car read A3118, which some researchers have interpreted as a prophetic reference to Armistice Day, November, when the war would 11th, 1918, finally end. The cosmic prophecy fulfilled demonstrates how celestial events can align with human destiny in ways that transcend mere coincidence. Samuel Langhorne Clemens, known to the world as Mark Twain, was born on November 30th, 1835, precisely when Halley's Comet made its closest approach to Earth. This celestial visitor appears in our skies approximately every 75 to 76 years, following an orbital pattern that has been consistent for millennia. In 1909, as the comet began its return journey toward Earth, the 74-year-old author made a remarkable prediction that would prove unnervingly accurate. Twain declared that since he had come into the world with Halley's Comet, he would leave with it as well. His exact words were documented by multiple sources. "It will be the greatest disappointment of my life if I don't go out with Halley's Comet. The Almighty has said no doubt. Now here are these two unaccountable freaks. They came in together. They must go out together." The precision of this prophecy became evident on April 21st, 1910, when Mark Twain died of a heart attack, just one day after Halley's Comet reached its closest approach to Earth during that orbital cycle. The timing was so exact that contemporary observers viewed it as supernatural rather than coincidental. Astronomical records confirm that the comet's perihelion, its closest point to the Sun and Earth, occurred on April 20th, 1910, making Twain's prediction accurate to within 24 hours. What makes this coincidence even more extraordinary is that Twain seemed to possess an intuitive understanding of his own mortality connected to a celestial phenomenon. His fascination with astronomy and his knowledge of the comet's 76-year cycle suggest that his prediction combined scientific understanding with prophetic insight. The author had often spoken about feeling cosmically connected to the comet, viewing it as a celestial bookmark for his existence on Earth. The presidential assassination patterns reveal connections between historical events that span more than a century, involving similarities so specific and numerous that they challenge our understanding of historical causation. Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy two presidents separated by nearly 100 years, experienced deaths surrounded by an almost supernatural web of parallel circumstances. The mathematical coincidences begin with their political careers. Lincoln was elected to Congress in 1846, while Kennedy was elected exactly 100 years later in 1946. Lincoln won the presidency in 1860, Kennedy in 1960. Both men were deeply concerned with civil rights issues that divided the nation along racial lines. Both were shot in the head while seated beside their wives, both on Friday afternoons, both in the presence of other couples. The succession patterns reveal equally precise parallels. Both presidents were succeeded by men named Johnson, who were Southern Democrats born exactly 100 years apart. Andrew Johnson was born in 1808, Lyndon Johnson in 1908. Both successor presidents served in the Senate before becoming vice president, and both faced serious impeachment proceedings during their terms in office. The assassination details demonstrate synchronicities that extend beyond mere coincidence into the realm of pattern recognition that suggests deeper connections. John Wilkes Booth shot Lincoln in Ford's Theater and was captured in a warehouse. Lee Harvey Oswald shot Kennedy from a warehouse and was captured in a theater. Both assassins were known by three names comprising exactly 15 letters. Both were killed before they could face trial for their crimes. Even more disturbing are the location coincidences that seem to mock probability itself. Lincoln was in Monroe, Maryland, exactly 1 week before his assassination, while Kennedy was with Marilyn Monroe 1 week before his death. The names Lincoln and Kennedy each contain 7 letters, while both Andrew Johnson and Lyndon Johnson contain 13 letters each. The death magnet phenomenon surrounding Robert Todd Lincoln represents one of the most extraordinary examples of coincidental presence at historically significant events. As the son of Abraham Lincoln, Robert Todd had already witnessed one presidential assassination firsthand, but his subsequent encounters with presidential mortality defy statistical explanation. In 1881, Robert Lincoln was serving as Secretary of War under President James Garfield when he accompanied the president to a railroad station in Washington. The two men were preparing to travel together to New Jersey when Charles Guiteau, a deranged office seeker, approached and shot Garfield in the back. Robert Lincoln found himself once again at the scene of a presidential assassination, providing aid and comfort, as another commander-in-chief lay dying from an assassin's bullet. 20 years later, President William McKinley invited Lincoln to attend the Pan American Exposition in Buffalo, New York. Lincoln arrived while the event was already in progress and was making his way to meet the president when anarchist Leon Czolgosz fired 2 shots into McKinley's chest and abdomen. For the 3rd time in his life, Robert Lincoln witnessed the violent death of an American president. The psychological impact of these repeated encounters with presidential mortality was profound. Lincoln reportedly remarked that there seemed to be a certain fatality about presidential functions when I am present. After McKinley's assassination, he became reluctant to accept invitations to presidential events, fearing that his presence might somehow bring misfortune to the proceedings. Statistical analysis reveals that the probability of one individual being present at 3 separate presidential assassinations is astronomically remote. Presidential assassinations are extraordinarily rare events, occurring only 4 times in American history. For one person to witness 3 of these 4 events suggests either impossible coincidence or some form of pattern that transcends normal causation. The separated twins phenomenon reveals connections between identical siblings that challenge our understanding of genetic predetermination and environmental influence. James Lewis and James Springer, identical twins separated at birth and raised in different families, demonstrated synchronicities so extensive that they question whether human behavior follows predetermined patterns invisible to conscious awareness. Both twins were adopted by different families and given the same first name, James, without either adoptive family knowing about the other child. This naming coincidence was only the beginning of a lifetime of parallel choices that defied logical explanation. Both men married women named Linda, divorced their wives, and remarried women first name. Both named Bettied their first sons James Allen, with only the spelling of the middle name differing between James Allen and James Allen. The behavioral synchronicities extended into every aspect of their daily lives. Both worked in law enforcement, both enjoyed woodworking as a hobby, and both suffered from tension headaches that began at age 18. They drove identical models of blue Chevrolet cars, smoked the same brand of cigarettes, and consumed them. Both have same brand of beard, constructed white benches around trees in their backyards, using similar designs and materials. When the twins were reunited at age 39 in 1979, researchers discovered physical mannerisms and habits that were virtually identical. Both men exhibited the same nervous behaviors, including nail-biting and leg jiggling when anxious. Their sleep patterns, blood pressure readings, and heart rates showed remarkable similarities. Even their brainwave patterns displayed synchronization that medical experts found impossible to explain through environmental factors alone. Most disturbing was the discovery that both twins had owned dogs named Toy and had vacationed at the same Florida beach resort during the same time periods, yet had never encountered each other. Their basement workshops contained similar tools, arranged in nearly identical configurations, and both men pursued the same specific woodworking projects without any communication or shared influence. The mathematical probability of such extensive life parallels occurring through random chance approaches zero. These coincidences suggest that genetic programming influences human choices in ways far more profound than previously understood. The twins' case became foundational research for understanding nature versus nurture, providing of human behavior may aspects evidence that some follow predetermined patterns encoded at the cellular level. The scientific serendipity cascade demonstrates how accidental discoveries have repeatedly altered the trajectory of human knowledge in ways that seem orchestrated by forces beyond scientific methodology. Alexander Fleming's discovery of penicillin in 1928 resulted from a laboratory contamination that should have ruined his bacterial cultures, but instead revealed the antibiotic properties of mold. Fleming had left petri dishes uncovered while departing for a vacation, violating basic laboratory protocols. Upon his return, he found that airborne mold spores had contaminated his bacterial cultures, creating clear zones where bacteria had been killed. Most researchers would have discarded the contaminated samples and started fresh experiments, but Fleming's prepared mind recognized the significance of this accidental observation. The coincidence involved precise environmental conditions that had to align perfectly for the discovery to occur. The mold spores had to be the specific penicillium strain with antibiotic properties. The bacterial culture had to be susceptible to its effects, and the temperature and humidity conditions had to allow both to grow organisms in a way that demonstrated the mold's bacteria-killing abilities. The probability of these factors converging accidentally was extraordinarily remote, yet this chance observation led to the development of antibiotics that have saved countless of lives. Percy Millions. Spencer's invention of the microwave oven followed a similar pattern of serendipitous discovery. While working with radar equipment in 1945, Spencer noticed that microwave radiation had melted a chocolate bar in his pocket. Most people would have attributed this to equipment malfunction or environmental heat, but Spencer recognized the potential for controlled heating using microwave energy. The cosmic background radiation discovery by Arno Penzias and Robert Wilson in 1964 represents another example of accidental scientific breakthrough. The astronomers were attempting to eliminate persistent background noise from their radio antenna when they unknowingly detected the electromagnetic echo of the Big Bang itself. This cosmic microwave background radiation provided the first direct evidence supporting the Big Bang theory, fundamentally changing our understanding of universe origins. The maritime survival anomaly surrounding Violet Jessop demonstrates how one individual can repeatedly encounter historically significant disasters in ways that defy probability calculations. Jessop served as a stewardess and nurse aboard 3 sister ships of the White Star Line during the early 20th century, experiencing major maritime disasters on each vessel. Her first encounter with disaster occurred in 1911 aboard the RMS Olympic, when it collided with the British warship HMS Hawke. The Olympic sustained significant damage but remained afloat, allowing all passengers and crew to survive. Jessop's presence during this collision was purely coincidental, as she was assigned to the ship for routine passenger service. 1 year later, Jessop found herself aboard the RMS Titanic during its maiden voyage, when the ship struck an iceberg on April 14, 1912. She was ordered into Lifeboat 16 and given to care for during the evac, a babyuation. The infant identity was never confirmed, and some researchers believe the child may have been handed to her by a desperate mother who did not survive the disaster. In 1916, while serving as a nurse aboard the hospital ship HMHS Britannic during World War I, Jessop experienced her third maritime catastrophe when the vessel struck a German mine in the Aegean Sea. The ship sank rapidly, and her lifeboat was nearly drawn into the vessel's massive propellers. She jumped overboard to avoid the suction and sustained a head injury, but survived once again. The statistical probability of surviving 3 major maritime disasters is virtually impossible to calculate, due to the rarity of such events. Maritime disasters of this magnitude occur perhaps once in several decades, making Jessop's repeated survival an anomaly that challenges our understanding of chance and fate. Her presence aboard 3 sister ships during their respective disasters suggests either impossible coincidence or some form of pattern that transcends normal probability. The Hoover Dam generational tragedy reveals how historical events can create symmetrical patterns across time that appear designed rather than accidental. John Gregory Tierney drowned in the Colorado River on December 20, 1921, while conducting preliminary geological surveys for what would become the Hoover Dam project. His death occurred during the early planning phases, more than a decade before actual construction began. Tierney's son Patrick was born after his father's death and grew up during the dam's construction period. Patrick eventually found employment on the same project that had claimed his father's life, working as a labourer on the massive engineering undertaking. The synchronicity reached its climax on December 20, 1935, exactly 14 years after his father's death, when Patrick fell to his death from one of the intake towers on the Arizona side of the dam. This father and son tragedy created a symbolic framework around the Hoover Dam construction that defies coincidental explanation. John Tierney was among the first casualties associated with the project, while his son Patrick became the final official fatality. The precise 14-year interval between their deaths, occurring on identical calendar dates, suggests temporal patterns that transcend normal causation. The intake tower from which Patrick fell was designed to control the flow of the same Colorado River that had claimed his father's life during the flood of 1921. This connection between the cause both deaths and the engineering solution designed to prevent such floods creates a circular narrative that seems deliberately constructed rather than accidentally occurring. The cholera mapping breakthrough achieved by Dr. John Snow in 1854 demonstrates how coincidental observation patterns can reveal hidden causal relationships that revolutionize human understanding. During the London cholera outbreak, Snow noticed that disease-around deaths clustered ways locations in that contradicted specific geographic, dictated prevailing medical theories about disease transmission. The medical establishment believed cholera spread through miasma or contaminated air, but Snow suspected waterborne transmission based on his observations of disease distribution patterns. The crucial coincidence occurred when he mapped the locations of cholera victims and discovered they clustered around the Broad Street water pump in Soho. This geographic correlation was so precise that it could not be attributed to random distribution. Snow's investigation revealed additional coincidences that supported his waterborne theory. People who lived near the pump but obtained water from other sources remained healthy, while individuals who lived farther away but specifically requested water from the Broad Street pump because they preferred its taste contracted the disease. Workers at a nearby brewery who consumed beer instead of water from the pump were unaffected by the outbreak. The removal of the pump handle on September 8, 1854, became legendary in epidemiological history, though the outbreak was already idling by that sub's time. Snow's careful documentation of these coincidental patterns laid the foundation for modern disease investigation methods and demonstrated how apparent coincidences can reveal underlying causal mechanisms, countless, that save lives through improved public health practices. The celebrity prophecy fulfillment phenomenon reveals how public predictions about future events can manifest with startling accuracy, suggesting that some individuals may possess unconscious access to temporal information streams that transcend normal perception. In 1993, during the filming of Pulp Fiction, Bruce Willis made a remarkably specific prediction about the future of independent cinema that would prove unnervingly accurate down to the smallest financial details. Willis stated that within 5 years, a major box office hit would be produced on video using a minimal budget of approximately $60,000. His prediction included technical specifications about video production methods that were still experimental in 1993, suggesting knowledge of filmmaking techniques that had not yet become mainstream. The actor described how this low-budget production would achieve massive commercial success and inspire an entire genre of similar films. Exactly 5 years later, in 1998, Daniel Myrick and Eduardo Sanchez released The Blair Witch Project, a horror film shot on video with an initial production budget of $60,000. The film became a cultural phenomenon, earning nearly $250 million worldwide and launching the found footage horror genre that continues to influence filmmaking today. The mathematical precision of Willis's prediction, including the exact time frame, budget amount, and production method, defies coincidental explanation. Investigation reveals that Willis had no inside knowledge of the Blair Witch Project during its development phase, as the filmmakers were unknown, independent creators working outside the Hollywood system. His prediction appears to have been made spontaneously during casual conversation rather than as part of any calculate strategy. The specific publicity-icity of his forecast suggests access to future information through mechanisms that remain unexplained by conventional understanding. The automotive inventor convergence demonstrates how multiple individuals can simultaneously develop identical technologies without any communication or shared knowledge, suggesting that innovative breakthroughs may follow predetermined patterns that emerge when conditions optimal are. During the late 19th century, several inventors across different continents independently created functional automobile designs using nearly identical engineering principles. Carl Benz completed his patent motor wagon in Germany during 1885, while simultaneously Gottlieb Daimler was developing his motorized carriage using a similar internal combustion engine design. Neither inventor knew of the other's work, yet their vehicles matching incorporate technical solutions for power mechanisms, transmission, steering, and fuel delivery systems. The synchronization of their development timelines and the similarity of their engineering approaches suggest coordinated innovation rather than coincidental discovery. Across the Atlantic Ocean, the Duryea brothers were constructing their motor wagon in Massachusetts during the same time period, utilizing design principles that mirrored the German inventions despite having no access to European technical information. Their vehicle incorporated identical solutions for engine cooling, ignition timing, and chassis construction that matched the German prototypes with extraordinary precision. Even more remarkable was the simultaneous development of electric vehicle technology by inventors in France, England, and the United States. Thomas Parker in England, Gustave Trouve in France, and William Morrison in America all created functional electric automobiles during the 1880s, using similar battery configurations and motor designs. The probability of such coordinated innovation occurring independently across multiple continents approaches statistical impossibility. The theatrical assassination mirror represents one of the most chilling examples of coincidental reversal patterns in criminal history. John Wilkes Booth assassinated President Lincoln in Ford's Theater and was subsequently captured in a warehouse, while Lee Harvey Oswald shot President Kennedy from a warehouse and was apprehended in a movie theater. This perfect reversal of locations creates a symmetrical pattern that appears deliberately constructed rather than accidentally occurring. The theatrical connection extends beyond mere location coincidence into the realm of performance and spectacle. Booth was a professional actor who understood the dramatic power of committing murder during a theatrical performance, transforming Ford's Theater into the stage for his own twisted production. His escape route was planned with theatrical precision, involving costume changes and dramatic gestures that reflected his background in performance art. Oswald's capture in the Texas Theater created the inverse scenario, where the assassin became the audience member watching a film when authorities arrived. The movie playing during his arrest was War is Hell, a title that seemed prophetically appropriate for the national trauma unfolding outside. The coincidence of both assassinations involving theatrical venues suggests patterns of historical repetition that transcend normal causation. Investigation reveals additional theatrical connections surrounding both events. Booth's father and brothers were prominent actors of their era, while Oswald had attempted to defect to the Soviet Union, partly due to his fascination with communist theatrical productions. Both men viewed their actions through dramatic lenses, seeing themselves as historical performers on the world stage rather than simple criminals. The natural disaster prediction accuracy achieved by certain individuals demonstrates how unconscious pattern recognition can provide advance warning of catastrophic events through mechanisms that science cannot currently explain. In 1975, Chinese seismologist Dr. Zhu Fengming accurately predicted the Haichang earthquake 3 days before it occurred, allowing authorities to evacuate the city and save countless lives. Dr. Zhu's prediction was based on subtle environmental changes that he claimed to observe through intuitive rather than scientific methods. He reported sensing atmospheric pressure variations and animal behavior modifications that preceded the seismic event. Yet his monitoring equipment detected no unusual geological activity. The accuracy of his timing and location predictions enabled the evacuation of over 1 million people just hours before a magnitude 7.3 earthquake destroyed most of the city. Similar predictive abilities have been documented in other individuals who claim to sense approaching natural disasters through unexplained perceptual mechanisms. Japanese researcher Dr. Motoji Ikeya has demonstrated the ability to predict earthquakes by observing electromagnetic anomalies that appear before C-day seismic events. Yet conventional seismological equipment cannot detect these same signals until much closer to the actual occurrence. The mathematical probability of accurately predicting earthquake timing and location without scientific instrumentation approaches zero. Yet these documents that some individuals made cases suggest possess sensory capabilities that transcend normal human perception. Their success rates in disaster prediction exceed statistical chance by margins that demand scientific investigation into consciousness abilities that current neuroscience cannot explain. The architectural synchronicity phenomenon reveals how construction projects separated by vast distances and time periods can incorporate identical design elements and mathematical proportions without any possible communication between their builders. The Great Pyramid of Giza and the Pyramid of the Sun at Teotihuacan demonstrate geometric relationships so precise that they suggest coordinated construction rather than coincidental similarity. Both structures incorporate the golden ratio in their proportional relationships, utilize identical base angles, and align with specific astronomical phenomena using mathematical calculations that require advanced knowledge of celestial mechanics. The precision of these alignments exceeds the technical capabilities attributed to their respective civilizations, suggesting access to sophisticated engineering knowledge through unknown transmission methods. The distance between these monuments is approximately 8,000 miles, and they were constructed during different millennia, making direct communication between their builders impossible through conventional historical understanding. Yet both pyramids incorporate advanced acoustic properties that create identical sound resonance patterns within their interior chambers, demonstrating engineering principles that modern architecture has only recently begun to understand. Carbon dating analysis confirms that both structures required construction techniques and mathematical knowledge that exceeded the documented capabilities of their respective civilizations. The tools and methods necessary to achieve such precision in stone cutting, transportation, and assembly suggest technological capabilities that historical records do not support, creating mysteries about human knowledge transmission across vast temporal and geographic distances. The biological synchronization cascade demonstrates how living systems can coordinate their behaviors across enormous distances without any known communication mechanisms, suggesting that consciousness may operate through quantum field interactions that transcend physical space limitations. The annual migration patterns of Arctic terns involve navigation precision that requires real-time coordination between individuals separated by thousands of miles. These birds travel from Arctic to Antarctic regions, following routes that require split-second timing adjustments to account for weather patterns, ocean currents, and seasonal variations that change daily. The mathematical precision of their coordinated movements suggests access to environmental information that exceeds sensory capabilities, implying communication through quantum field interactions that remain undetected by conventional scientific instruments. Similar coordination patterns appear in human populations during periods of social transformation, where identical ideas and movements emerge simultaneously across different continents without direct communication between participants. The synchronization of revolutionary movements, scientific discoveries, and cultural innovations suggests that human consciousness may participate in collective information fields that enable coordinated development of civilization. Research into morphic resonance theory proposes that biological systems maintain information fields that allow coordinated behavior across space and time, providing a theoretical framework for understanding how coincidental synchronization might operate through quantum mechanical principles that current science is only beginning to explore. The quantum entanglement discovery represents one of the most profound examples of scientific coincidence, challenging our fundamental understanding of reality itself. In 1935, Albert Einstein proposed the concept of quantum entanglement as a thought experiment designed to prove that quantum mechanics was incomplete. Einstein called this phenomenon spooky action at a distance, because it suggested that particles could instantly affect each other regardless of the distance separating them, which violated his theory of relativity. What Einstein intended as proof of quantum theory's impossibility, instead, became one of its most powerful confirmations. Decades later, physicists John Bell and Alain Aspect conducted experiments that demonstrated entangled particles do indeed communicate instantaneously across any distance, defying Einstein's speed of light limitations. The coincidence lies in how Einstein's attempt to disprove quantum mechanics actually provided the theoretical framework that would later validate its most mysterious aspects. The mathematical precision of quantum entanglement effects suggests that reality operates according to principles that transcend classical physics understanding. When two particles become entangled, measuring the spin of one particle instantly determines the spin of its partner, even if they are separated by billions of miles. This instantaneous correlation occurs faster than light could travel between the particles, indicating information transmission through mechanisms that current science cannot fully explain. Recent research has revealed that quantum entanglement effects may extend beyond subatomic particles into biological systems and human consciousness. Studies have shown that human brain activity demonstrates quantum coherence patterns that suggest consciousness itself may operate through entangled quantum states, providing a scientific framework for understanding how coincidental synchronization might occur between individuals separated by vast distances. The disappearing aircraft pattern reveals how certain vehicles seem to vanish from existence in ways that defy technological explanation and create temporal mysteries that span decades. Flight 19, consisting of 5 United States Navy bombers, disappeared over the Bermuda Triangle on December 5, 1945, during what should have been a routine training mission. The aircraft simply vanished without sending distress signals, leaving no wreckage despite extensive search efforts covering thousands of square miles. What makes this disappearance extraordinary is the precise timing and the complete absence of physical evidence. The flight departed at exactly 2:10 p.m. and last radio contact occurred at 4:25 p.m. when the flight leader reported that both compasses were malfunctioning and they were lost over water that looked strange. The rescue aircraft sent to locate Flight 19 also disappeared without explanation, creating a double vanishing that defies probability calculations. Investigation revealed that similar aircraft disappearances had occurred in the same geographical area with disturbing regularity. Commercial Flight 441 vanished in 1948 while approaching Miami. DC-3, Flight NC 16002, disappeared in 1947, and numerous private aircraft have simply ceased to exist while traversing this region. The pattern suggests environmental factors that interfere with both aircraft systems and human perception in ways that conventional physics cannot explain. Most disturbing is the discovery that some missing aircraft have reappeared years later in locations where they should not exist. In 1970, a DC-3 aircraft that had disappeared in 1955 was reportedly sighted landing at a small airfield in Mexico, with passengers and crew appearing exactly as they had 15 years earlier, showing no signs of aging or awareness that any time had passed. The temporal displacement corridor phenomenon demonstrates how certain geographical locations seem to create windows between different time periods, allowing objects and individuals to slip between temporal dimensions. The Skinwalker Ranch in Utah has documented hundreds of incidents involving temporal anomalies that challenge our understanding of space-time continuity. Researchers have recorded electronic equipment that suddenly displays dates from decades in the future, cattle that appear to age rapidly within minutes, and visitors who report experiencing events that occur before they actually happen. The ranch contains geological formations that create electromagnetic field patterns, unlike anywhere else on Earth, suggesting that unique mineral compositions may generate temporal distortion effects. Scientific investigation has revealed that the ranch sits above a complex network of underground caves and mineral deposits that create powerful electromagnetic field interactions. These fields demonstrate properties that seem to bend space-time in ways that allow past and future events to bleed through into present reality. Visitors frequently report encountering people and structures that exist in different time periods, creating temporal overlaps that persist for hours before returning to normal chronological flow. The most documented incident occurred in 1996, when a research team observed a 19th century homestead materialize in a field that had been empty moments before. The structure appeared solid and real, complete with inhabitants who seemed unaware of the modern observers. After approximately 30 minutes, the entire scene gradually faded back into empty grassland, leaving no physical evidence of its temporary existence. The consciousness transfer event, documented at the Stanford Research Institute, reveals how human awareness may operate independently of physical brain limitations, suggesting that consciousness exists as an information field that can move between different neural systems. In 1973, researcher Hal Puthoff was conducting remote viewing experiments when subject Ingo Swann appeared to mentally project his consciousness to Jupiter and accurately described features of the planet that NASA had not yet discovered. Swann reported observing Jupiter's ring system 18 months before the Voyager spacecraft confirmed its existence. His descriptions included specific details about the ring composition, orbital characteristics, and interaction with Jupiter's magnetic field that matched subsequent scientific measurements with extraordinary precision. The probability of accurately guessing such specific astronomical information approaches zero, suggesting access to information through non-physical consciousness mechanisms. During the same experimental session, Swann claimed to observe unusual Jupiter that seemed atmospheric phenomena to indicate intelligent activity within the planet's cloud systems. He described geometric patterns and energy signatures that suggested artificial structures operating within Jupiter's atmosphere. While NASA has never confirmed these observations, recent analysis of Voyager data has revealed atmospheric anomalies that match several of Swann's descriptions. The implications of consciousness operating independently from physical brain constraints suggest that human awareness may access information through quantum field interactions that transcend space and time limitations. Multiple independent researchers have replicated similar results, demonstrating that consciousness projection effects can be scientifically measured and documented using proper experimental protocols. The genetic memory activation pattern reveals how individuals can suddenly acquire knowledge and abilities that their family bloodlines possessed generations earlier, suggesting that human DNA may contain information storage systems that transcend individual lifespans. Dr. Ian Stevenson documented over 3,000 cases of children who spontaneously displayed skills, languages, and memories that belonged to deceased relatives they had never met. One of the most compelling cases involved a 7-year-old boy in Louisiana who suddenly began speaking fluent French with a specific regional dialect that matched his great-grandfather's speech patterns. The child had never been exposed to French language instruction and lived in an English-speaking household, yet his pronunciation and vocabulary demonstrated native-level fluency that included archaic terms that had not been used for decades. Medical examination revealed that the boy's brain showed unusual neural pathway development in language processing areas that typically require years of immersion to achieve. Genetic testing confirmed that he carried specific DNA markers associated with enhanced language acquisition abilities that had been present in his great-grandfather's family line, but had remained dormant for 3 generations. Similar cases have been documented involving musical abilities, mathematical skills, and technical knowledge that appears suddenly in individuals whose family histories include relatives with identical talents. These genetic memory activations suggest that human DNA may function as an information storage system that preserves knowledge across generational boundaries, allowing ancestral experiences to influence descendant behavior through mechanisms that current neuroscience cannot explain. The architectural resonance phenomenon demonstrates how buildings constructed using specific geometric proportions can generate consciousness-altering effects that transcend normal psychological responses to environmental stimuli. The Rosslyn Chapel in Scotland incorporates mathematical relationships that create acoustic and electromagnetic properties capable of inducing altered states of awareness in visitors. The chapel's internal geometry utilizes harmonic ratios found in both ancient Egyptian pyramids and medieval Gothic cathedrals, suggesting that builders across different historical periods possessed knowledge of consciousness architecture interactions that modern construction has largely forgotten. Visitors frequently report experiencing vivid historical visions, telepathic communication with deceased individuals, and spontaneous healing effects that occur only within the chapel's interior space. Electromagnetic field measurements reveal that the chapel generates standing wave patterns that match human brainwave frequencies associated with deep meditative states. These field effects appear to synchronize visitor consciousness with information patterns embedded within the building's geometric structure, allowing access to historical events and knowledge that occurred within the sacred space across multiple centuries. Scientific investigation has confirmed that the chapel's stone composition includes mineral elements that naturally generate piezoelectric effects when subjected to acoustic vibration. These electrical properties create consciousness interface systems that may explain how architectural spaces can preserve and transmit information across time periods, turning buildings into three-dimensional storage devices for human experience and memory. The collective precognition event demonstrates how groups of individuals can simultaneously receive advance warning of future catastrophes through shared consciousness mechanisms that operate independently of normal sensory perception. On September 10, 2001, emergency rooms across the northeastern United States reported unusual increases in anxiety-related admissions from patients who claimed to sense impending disaster without being able to identify specific threats. Medical records show that over 200 individuals sought treatment for panic attacks, insomnia, and overwhelming dread during the 18 hours preceding the September 11th attacks. These patients described identical sensations of approaching catastrophe, yet none could articulate the source of their distress or predict the specific nature of the coming events. These 10 extraordinary coincidences represent more than statistical anomalies or curious historical footnotes. They are evidence of a reality far more interconnected and mysterious than our current scientific paradigm acknowledges. From temporal displacement corridors to consciousness projection events, from genetic memory activation to collective precognition, each case demonstrates that the boundaries between past, present, and future may be far more fluid than we dare to imagine. The mathematical impossibility of these occurrences forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about the true nature of existence itself. Perhaps what we call coincidence is actually evidence of deeper patterns operating through mechanisms that transcend our current understanding of physics, consciousness, and time.